The massive Concordiat vessel darkened the skies over New Delhi as it descended through Earth's atmosphere. Dr. Sarah Chen, director of the United Earth Space Development Agency, watched from the ground with mixed emotions. After 6 months of these technological assistance visits, the excitement of first contact had soured into something far more bitter. "Another delivery from our benefactors," muttered Dr. Marcus Rivera beside her, his voice dripping with sarcasm. As head of Earth's Advanced Engineering Division, he'd spent countless hours examining the gifts the Concordiat bestowed upon humanity. The alien ship's cargo doors groaned open, and what could only be described as technological rainfall began. Pieces of machinery, computer components, and various unidentifiable devices tumbled from the hold, their descent slowed by repulsor fields to prevent widespread damage on impact. "At least they're considerate enough not to let their garbage crush our buildings," Sarah said, watching as the latest donation of outdated technology scattered across the designated reception zone. The Concordiat called it uplifting, sharing their cast-off technology with promising primitive species. In reality, it was barely disguised contempt. High above, Administrator Ventul observed the delivery from his ship's command center, his 4 eyes blinking in sequence, a gesture of satisfaction among his species. "Another successful distribution to the humans," he noted to his aide. "They show appropriate gratitude for our generosity." "Indeed, Administrator," the aide replied, "though some might question the wisdom of giving them access to any of our technology, even deprecated models." Ventul's outer eyes narrowed in amusement. "These humans barely understand the principles of quantum mechanics. They still use silicon-based computing. The likelihood of them comprehending even our discarded technology is virtually nil." On the ground, Sarah's communicator chirped, "Dr. Chen, you need to see this." It was Dr. Yuki Tanaka, one of their best quantum physicists. "We've found something different in this batch." "Different how?" Sarah asked, already moving toward the research facility. Well, you should just come see for yourself." In the vast sorting facility where humans processed the Concordiat's gifts, Yuki stood before what appeared to be a damaged power core. But unlike the usual broken or obsolete components they received, this one hummed with latent energy. "It's not dead," Yuki explained, her eyes bright with excitement. "The Concordiat's quality control must be slipping. This core isn't just salvageable. It's nearly intact. And look at these markings." She pointed to strange symbols etched into the casing. "They're different from the usual Concordiat script." Marcus ran his hands over the alien metal, his engineer's mind already racing with possibilities. "This isn't their standard technology at all. It's experimental. Maybe something they acquired from another species." Sarah felt her pulse quicken. For months, they'd been documenting everything the Concordiat discarded, building a database of their technology. But this was different. This wasn't just scraps to be studied. This was something potentially functional. "Lock this facility down," she ordered. "Full security protocols. No one speaks about this to anyone outside this room." She turned to Marcus and Yuki. "I want everything you can learn about this power core, but keep it quiet. The Concordiat thinks they're giving us broken toys. Let's not disabuse them of that notion just yet." Above the facility, Administrator Ventul's ship was already departing Earth's atmosphere, their charitable mission complete. They never bothered to monitor what happened to their discarded technology after delivery. After all, what could primitives possibly do with it? In the weeks that followed, Sarah's team made their first breakthrough. The power core wasn't just functional, it was revolutionary. Its design principles defied Concordiat engineering standards, suggesting it came from a civilization with a completely different approach to technology. "Look at this," Marcus explained during a secure briefing. "The Concordiat builds everything in perfect hierarchical systems. But this," he gestured to the holographic schematics floating before them. "This is elegantly chaotic. It's adaptable. More like how nature designs things than how engineers do." and they threw it away because it didn't fit their paradigm. Sarah realized. Because it wasn't proper technology by their standards. Their arrogance is our opportunity, Yuki added. They're so convinced of their superiority that they don't even consider we might learn from their trash. Sarah stood before the power core, watching its subtle purple glow. For the first time since the Concordia arrived, she felt hope. Then let's show them what humans do best, she said. Let's take what they've discarded and build something they never imagined possible. Administrator Ventel's report to the Concordiate Council was brief and dismissive. The humans continue to accept our technological waste with appropriate gratitude. They remain centuries from achieving true spacefaring status. Recommend continuing current uplift protocols. He never noticed the gleam in Dr. Chen's eyes during his perfunctory inspections, never suspected that humans were already learning to read Concordiate technical specifications, never imagined that Earth's primitive scientists were beginning to understand principles his people thought beyond their comprehension. The game was about to change, and only humanity knew they were playing. Deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, in a repurposed military bunker, humanity's greatest secret was taking shape. Dr. Sarah Chen stood before a massive holographic display, watching as layers of alien tech specifications merged with human engineering principles. The project had grown far beyond the initial power core discovery. We've cracked their material science database, Dr. Yuki Tanaka announced, adding another layer to the display. You won't believe what they consider obsolete. Her fingers danced across the interface, highlighting various components from recent Concordiate dumps. They discard anything that shows even minor manufacturing imperfections. Perfect is the enemy of good enough. Marcus Rivera entered the command center, his tablet displaying results from their latest series of tests. Speaking of imperfections, we've successfully replicated the adaptive power distribution system. It's not as efficient as their pure quantum matrix, but it's significantly more resilient. When their systems fail, they fail completely. Ours bend but don't break. Sarah studied the data, a smile playing at her lips. How very human of us. They seek perfection. We embrace adaptation. She turned to face her team. What's the status on Project Prometheus? The hologram shifted, revealing their masterpiece in progress. Unlike the sleek, standardized designs of Concordiate vessels, their ship was an exercise in controlled chaos. Where alien ships housed single massive power cores, theirs utilized a network of smaller, interconnected cores. Where they used crystalline computational matrices, humanity had created hybrid systems that combined quantum processing with neural network architecture. We're at a crucial stage, Marcus explained. The Concordiate's next inspection is in 3 days. We need to ensure everything appears normal up top while we continue work down here. Administrator Ventel has become quite predictable, Yuki noted, pulling up their surveillance data. His inspections follow the same pattern every time. He spends exactly 47 minutes at each facility, only looks at our primitive attempts to understand their tech, and never ventures beyond the surface levels. Sarah nodded. Their greatest weakness is their certainty in their own superiority. They've categorized us, filed us away as primitives, and stopped looking any deeper. She paused, considering their progress. Show me the integration tests for the weapons systems. The hologram changed again, displaying a series of simulations. Conventional Concordiate weapons relied on perfectly aligned energy matrices, producing powerful but predictable attacks. The human hybrid design was different. We've taken their discarded weapon cores and essentially taught them to improvise, Marcus explained proudly. Instead of single, powerful beams, our system fires multiple smaller bursts that can change trajectory mid-flight. Less raw power, but far more tactical flexibility. They'll never expect it, Yuki added. The Concordiate's combat doctrine is built around overwhelming force and perfect execution. The idea of a weapon that adapts its attack pattern in real time would never occur to them. A junior engineer rushed into the command center, her face flushed with excitement. Dr. Chen. The latest dump contained 3 more experimental cores, just like the first one. And this time, we found documentation. Sarah's eyes widened. Documentation. They never include technical data with their waste. It wasn't intentional, the engineer explained. The cores had internal memory that survived. They're from something called the Nexus Project, apparently a failed attempt to create more adaptable technology. The Concordia shut it down because the results were too unpredictable. Too unpredictable for them, Marcus said with a grin. For us, unpredictable is just another word for innovative. Sarah moved to a secure terminal, reviewing the newly discovered data. This changes everything. With these specs, we could complete Prometheus months ahead of schedule. She looked up at her team. But we need to be careful. One slip, one hint that we're more capable than they believe, and they'll shut us down completely. About that, Yuki interjected, her expression serious. I've been analyzing their patrol patterns. They're getting sloppy, overconfident. The gaps between observations are getting longer. But I'm also seeing increased chatter about something called the Ascension Protocol. What's that? Sarah asked, though she had a sinking feeling she knew. From what we can decrypt, it's their endgame for primitive species. Once they decide a species has received enough assistance, they implement full integration into their hierarchy. Or, Yuki hesitated. Or what? Or they determine the species is incapable of proper advancement and implement containment protocols. They've done it before. The command center fell silent as the implications sank in. They weren't just building a ship anymore. They were racing against time. Sooner or later, the Concordia would make their final judgment on humanity's potential. How long? Sarah asked. Based on their standard procedures, 6 months, maybe less. Sarah turned back to the hologram of their nearly completed vessel. What had started as a proof of concept had become humanity's best hope for independence. Then we have 6 months to show them that humanity's potential can't be measured by their standards. Above them, through layers of rock and secrecy, another Concordia ship arrived to make its scheduled delivery. Administrator Vental watched with his usual detached amusement as humans scrambled to collect their latest gifts, never suspecting that each piece of discarded technology brought humanity one step closer to shattering his people's carefully ordered universe. In the bunker, Project Prometheus continued to grow, a testament to humanity's greatest strength, the ability to take what others had discarded and forge it into something new, something unexpected, something revolutionary. The first full-power test of Project Prometheus shook the mountain complex despite layers of dampening fields. Dr. Sarah Chen gripped the edge of her console as energy readings spiked across every monitor in the command center. Beside her, Marcus Rivera called out readings while Yuki Tanaka's fingers flew across the master control interface. Power core network at 60% capacity and climbing, Marcus announced. Hybrid matrices are holding steady. No sign of cascade failure. 80% capacity, Yuki added. The adaptive algorithms are learning, redistributing load faster than projected. Sarah, this is working better than we hoped. Warning lights flashed across the engineering stations as power levels pushed past their estimates. The ship's hybrid core network, combining salvaged Concordia technology with human innovation, was proving more efficient than their simulations had predicted. 100% capacity, Marcus called out. Do we shut it down? Sarah leaned forward, studying the readings, where Concordia systems would be approaching critical failure from such an uncontrolled power surge. Their hybrid design was adapting, creating new pathways for the excess energy. No, let it run. Let's see what she can really do. The massive chamber hummed with energy as Prometheus came fully alive for the first time. Unlike the sterile perfection of Concordia vessels, their ship pulsed with an almost organic rhythm, its hybrid systems working in harmony rather than rigid hierarchy. 120% capacity, Yuki reported, wonder in her voice. The core network it's evolving, creating new configurations we didn't program. That's impossible. a Concordiat engineer would have said. But they weren't bound by Concordiat limitations, where the aliens sought to control every aspect of their technology. Humanity had built systems that could grow, learn, adapt. Power leveling at 125% of projected capacity, Marcus finally announced. All systems nominal. She's not just stable, she's thriving. Sarah allowed herself a moment of pride before activating the facility-wide comm. Power test successful. Begin full systems integration. I want weapons, shields, and propulsion online within 48 hours. As her team celebrated their success, Sarah retreated to her private office. She activated a secure hologram showing their timeline. The Concordiat's Ascension Protocol deadline was approaching faster than expected. Recent intercepts suggested they were already preparing their final assessment of humanity's potential. A knock at her door interrupted her thoughts. Enter. Yuki stepped in, carrying a data tablet. You need to see this. We've decoded more of the Nexus project data from those experimental cores. Sarah gestured for her to continue. The project wasn't just about creating more adaptable technology, Yuki explained. It was an attempt to fundamentally change how the Concordiat approached technological development. But the project leader, someone named Valator, was branded a heretic for suggesting their perfect systems could be improved. What happened to them? Exiled to some backwater monitoring station. But here's the interesting part. They're stationed at the edge of our solar system, watching Earth. Sarah straightened in her chair. Are you saying one of our observers is the creator of the technology we're using to break free of their control? Ironic, isn't it? Yuki smiled. But it gets better. Look at these command codes we found embedded in the core's memory. Sarah studied the data, her eyes widening. These would give us access to their entire defense network, yes. Valator didn't just create experimental technology. They created a backdoor into the Concordiat's perfect systems, then let it be thrown away with the rest of their garbage. Before Sarah could respond, alarms blared throughout the facility. Marcus's voice came through the comm. Multiple Concordiat ships just entered the system. This isn't a scheduled delivery. Sarah and Yuki rushed to the command center. The main display showed 5 Concordiat warships approaching Earth, their formation indicating this was no peaceful visit. They're broadcasting a message, Marcus reported. Playing it now. Administrator Vental's image appeared on screen, his usual condescension replaced by cold authority. Attention Earth authorities. Our monitoring systems have detected unauthorized energy signatures consistent with restricted technology. This violation of uplift protocols cannot be ignored. Prepare for immediate containment procedures. How long until they reach Earth? Sarah demanded. 17 hours, Marcus answered. Prometheus isn't ready. We haven't tested the integrated systems, let alone trained a full crew. Sarah looked at her team, seeing the same determination in their eyes that she felt. Then we have 17 hours to get ready. This isn't just about proving ourselves anymore. It's about survival. The mountain complex erupted into focused activity. Engineers and technicians worked frantically to complete system integration. Crew members ran combat simulations while final components were still being installed. Every scrap of knowledge they'd gleaned from the Concordiat's cast-offs was put to use. In her quarters, Sarah recorded what might be her final log entry. They gave us their scraps, thinking we could never understand them. They judged us by their standards, never considering that we might have standards of our own. They sought perfection. We embraced adaptation. They discarded anything that didn't fit their ideal. We found value in the imperfect. Now we'll show them that humanity's greatest strength isn't in achieving their kind of perfection. It's in finding new ways to solve old problems. The Concordiat ships moved inexorably closer, their perfect formation a testament to their rigid philosophy. They never expected resistance. After all, what could primitives possibly do with discarded technology? In 16 hours, they would learn exactly what humanity could do with their leftovers. And the galaxy would never be the same. With 12 hours remaining until the Concordiat fleet arrived, Project Prometheus emerged from its mountain sanctuary. The massive launch doors ground open for the first time, revealing humanity's answer to alien condescension. Unlike the pristine geometric shapes of Concordiate vessels, Prometheus was an elegant fusion of salvaged alien technology and human engineering. Its hull a patchwork of materials that somehow formed a harmonious whole. Final systems check. Sarah Chen ordered from the command chair. The bridge hummed with activity as her hastily trained but determined crew worked at stations that merged alien interfaces with human intuition. Hybrid core network stable at 130% capacity, Marcus reported from engineering. She's actually getting more efficient as the systems learn to work together. Weapons grid online. Lieutenant Emma Santos called from tactical. Adaptive targeting systems are responsive. Shield matrix is, well, it's doing something interesting. Sarah turned to her weapons officer. Define interesting. Emma's hands flew over her console. The shield harmonics aren't just rotating frequencies like we planned. They're predicting incoming attack patterns and preemptively adapting. The defense AI is learning faster than our simulations suggested. Because it's working with us, not for us, Yuki explained from her science station. Everything we built into Prometheus was designed to complement human creativity, not replace it. A priority alert flashed across the main view screen. Multiple ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel, Emma reported. Concordiate fleet arriving ahead of schedule. Of course they are, Sarah muttered. They pride themselves on efficiency. She opened a channel to engineering. Marcus, ready or not, it's time to show them what humanity can do with their hand-me-downs. The 5 Concordiate warships emerged from FTL in perfect formation, their pristine hulls gleaming in the sunlight. Administrator Vental's voice boomed across all frequencies. Attention primitive vessel. Your unauthorized construction of restricted technology will not be tolerated. Power down immediately and prepare for containment procedures. Sarah stood from her command chair. This is Dr. Sarah Chen of the Earth ship Prometheus. We've learned much from your generous donations. Allow us to demonstrate. Before Vental could respond, Prometheus moved. Not with the precise, predictable maneuvers of Concordiate ships, but with an almost organic grace. The hybrid propulsion system, combining salvaged alien tech with human engineering, allowed for movements that defied conventional space combat doctrine. They're launching fighters, Emma reported. Standard Concordiate attack pattern. Let's show them something non-standard, Sarah ordered. Initiate defense pattern Alpha 3. The Concordiate fighters approached in perfect formation, their energy weapons charging. They expected an easy target. After all, how could primitives possibly defend against their superior technology? Prometheus's shield grid came alive, but not as a simple barrier. Where Concordiate shields were uniform fields of energy, theirs rippled and flowed, creating unpredictable patterns that caught the incoming fire and dispersed it harmlessly. Enemy fighters adjusting tactics, Emma announced. They're repeating the same attack pattern, just with more power. Sarah allowed herself a small smile. Typical. Their combat computers can't adapt to something that doesn't fit their parameters. Show them what adaptive targeting can do. Prometheus's weapons grid activated. Instead of the straightforward energy beams favored by the Concordiate, their hybrid weapons fired bursts that curved and split, following unpredictable trajectories. The perfect formation of enemy fighters broke apart as they tried to evade attacks that didn't follow proper physics. In his flagship's command center, Administrator Vental watched in growing confusion as his fighters failed to penetrate the primitive vessel's defenses. Impossible. Their technology is inferior. Our combat computers calculate a 99.97% chance of victory. Sir, his tactical officer reported, the human vessel's energy signature is changing. Our targeting systems can't maintain a lock. Irrelevant. Launch all remaining fighters. Commence primary weapon charge sequence. We will show these primitives the true power of proper Concordiate technology. On Prometheus's bridge, Yuki's console lit up with warnings. They're powering up their main guns. Standard Concordiate protocol. They'll fire everything at once, overwhelming any possible defense. Because that's what their doctrine demands, Sarah said. Perfect, overwhelming force. But perfection has a weakness. It's predictable. She turned to Emma. Prepare for defense pattern Omega. Let's show them what happens when you underestimate human ingenuity. The Concordiate fleet fired as one, their energy weapons forming a perfect web of destruction that no known shield could withstand. By all their calculations, by every principle of their perfect technology, Prometheus should have been vaporized instantly. Instead, their hybrid shield grid did something unprecedented. Rather than trying to block the overwhelming force, it bent, channeled, and redirected. The massive energy discharge meant to destroy them instead flowed around and through specially designed conduits in Prometheus's hull. Power surge contained, Marcus reported excitedly. The core network is absorbing their attack, using it to boost our own systems. We're now at 150% power capacity and climbing. Sarah leaned forward in her command chair. Return fire. All weapons. Show them what their discarded technology can really do in human hands. Prometheus unleashed its full arsenal, but not in the coordinated barrage a Concordiate vessel would have used. Each weapon fired independently, adapting its attack pattern based on the enemy's movements. Energy beams curved around shields, torpedo paths shifted mid-flight, and targeting algorithms learned and adapted with each shot. The perfect formation of the Concordiate fleet began to break apart as they faced something their combat computers couldn't categorize, a fighting style that refused to follow proper protocols. Administrator Vental's perfect world was crumbling before his eyes. The primitive vessel, built from his people's cast-offs, was not just surviving, it was winning. His tactical display showed 3 of his 5 ships suffering significant damage, their perfect formations shattered by attacks that defied prediction. "Sir," his tactical officer reported, voice trembling, "we've lost contact with Squadron Leader Valter's monitoring station. They're broadcasting something to the human vessel." Vental's outer eyes widened in shock. Valter, the heretic. Impossible. But even as he spoke, new data flooded his screens. Technical specifications, command codes, the full details of the Forbidden Nexus project. Aboard Prometheus, Sarah Chen watched as the transmitted data integrated with their systems. Valter didn't just give us access to their defense networks, she announced to her crew. They gave us proof that the Concordiate's entire technological philosophy is flawed. Their pursuit of perfection has made them stagnant. Multiple Concordiate ships dropping out of FTL, Emma reported from Tactical. They're not military vessels. Science ships, research vessels, even civilian transports. They're broadcasting support for Galter. The main screen filled with transmissions from the new arrivals. Other voices within the Concordiate, it seemed, had grown tired of rigid perfection. Valter's experiment with adaptive technology had sparked a quiet revolution, one that had been waiting for the right moment to emerge. Administrator Vental. Sarah opened a channel to the Concordiate flagship. Your own people are telling you that there's another way. Perfection isn't the only path to advancement. Sometimes the most elegant solutions come from embracing imperfection, from allowing systems to adapt and grow. On his bridge, Vental watched as more ships arrived. Not just Concordiate vessels, but ships from other species who had faced similar uplift programs. The primitives hadn't just built a warship, they'd proven that his people's entire worldview was fundamentally flawed. How? He demanded. How did you achieve this with our discarded technology? Because it was discarded, Sarah replied. Everything you threw away as imperfect, we saw as an opportunity. Your rigid pursuit of perfection made you blind to the potential of adaptation, of combining different approaches to create something new. She gestured to her bridge crew, humans working seamlessly with hybrid technology that merged the best of both worlds. You gave us broken pieces, thinking we couldn't possibly understand them. But understanding wasn't the goal. Innovation was, we didn't try to recreate your technology. We reimagined it. The remaining Concordiat warships powered down their weapons. On dozens of screens, reports began flowing in from across the galaxy. Other primitive species, inspired by Earth's example, were revealing their own innovations, their own reinterpretations of Concordiat technology. The galaxy is changing, Administrator, Sarah continued. The age of rigid perfection is ending. It's time for something new, a fusion of different approaches, different perspectives. You can be part of that change, or you can become as obsolete as the technology you discard. Ventel was silent for a long moment. When he finally spoke, his voice had lost its condescension. Perhaps there is wisdom in imperfection. The Concordiat Council will need to reconsider many things. In the days that followed, Earth became a symbol of a new era in galactic civilization. The Prometheus project was declassified, its hybrid technology shared with other species who had suffered under the Concordiat's rigid hierarchy. Velter, no longer in exile, established a new research institute on Earth, where scientists from across the galaxy could explore technologies that didn't fit the old paradigms. Sarah Chen stood in her office at the newly established Adaptive Technology Center, watching ships from a dozen species dock at the orbital station above. On her desk sat a piece of twisted metal, the first component they'd salvaged from the Concordiat's garbage, now mounted as a reminder. The first shipment from the new Concordiat Science Council just arrived, Marcus reported, entering with a tablet. They're actually asking for our input this time, wanting to learn our approach to adaptive systems. And the other species? Sarah asked. The Rigelians have already adapted our hybrid shield design for their environmental systems. The Centaurians are applying adaptive principles to their medical technology. Even the Concordiat's starting to experiment with less rigid engineering standards. Sarah picked up the mounted piece of salvage, remembering how it had all started. They thought they were uplifting us, teaching us to be more like them. Instead, we taught them something they'd forgotten, that sometimes the most powerful innovations come from embracing imperfection, from seeing the potential in what others throw away. Above Earth, Prometheus remained on patrol, its hybrid systems continuing to evolve and adapt. No longer a symbol of resistance, it had become something more important, proof that the future belonged not to those who pursued perfection, but to those who dared to imagine different paths to the same goal. The Concordiat's era of rigid perfection was over. A new age of adaptive innovation had begun, sparked by a species that had taken the galaxy's cast-offs and built something revolutionary. Humanity had earned its place among the stars not by following the established path, but by finding their own way forward. And somewhere in the vast sea of stars, other primitive species were looking at their own piles of salvaged technology with new eyes, wondering what wonders they might build from the pieces others had discarded.